they're all very personal. They're not necessarily personal experiences. They could be things that personally resonate with me, but that are someone else's experience that I've never sort of, So one of my first films was about having kids too young, and the implications of that. No, I hadn't had kids too young. I don't think, but there was something about the people I spoke to that had that experience that then resonated with me, and I think a lot of it for me is empathy with people. I empathise with situations and plights, and but they're not necessarily directly personal experiences. I mean, on this last thing I've done, they're 5 love stories, and they're provocative. They're about the complexities of love and morality, and I just find that kind of stuff really interesting. So there's a lot of me in them, but they're not necessarily things I've been through. Well, normally it's like if it's something that I've written. It's normally something that I've had an experience with somebody else of. Someone has related that experience to me. So I've always had that direct connection with the truth from that real person, which I then feel confident to direct. And then at the same time, I like to cast actors that bring their own sort of personal experiences as well. So often an actor will really understand that dilemma or plight. Maybe they've experienced it themselves, and so that's what I look for when I cast, is for a real direct connection with the subject matter. And I think it's a sort of fusion between, what I've learned through people out there, myself, and the actor's experience. And it's a really nice way of working, actually, because it becomes incredibly real. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff I've done has always been based in what I believe is the reality of it. I don't like to do stuff which is supposition, or which is a kind of an interpretation, or even adaptations. I don't like any of that stuff. I like stuff that is rooted in reality, because I've talked to those people who've been through that. So research has always been quite a strong part of what I've done. I've spoken to at length lots of people. That's a good way of doing it, really. Well, it is my first piece of theatre as a filmmaker. It's an interesting way of going, because I think a lot of film directors have come from theatre, but you don't necessarily hear of film directors that go into theatre having made films. So, so it's an interesting idea, and I think it's come about because I think there's lots of things, lots of subject matter, lots of stories that you can't tell with film and television, with a kind of absolute truth and unwavering vision. That's the thing about theatre. I think there's stories you can tell with utter originality and truth, and you can be bolder, you can be more creative, you can be more symbolic, you can be very direct with what you're saying. You don't have to kind of package it in any way. It's what it is, and I like the raw possibilities of theatre. And that's something that I, as a filmmaker, have always desired. And I think this is another way of me being able to express, my feelings about life and humanity. And I think it's a very pure place to do it. So it came about from my desire, and also a particular idea that I think one can push the envelope much more with theatre than, it's not something that I think would be, an obvious sell for a film. So I think it's great to be able to explore quite complicated human themes that are of our times, that are actually about, I think, the important and difficult things that are going on in society today. So that's why I'm here doing this. It's about the divisions in life, in society. It's about the fact that we are, an incredibly unequal society. And in cities in particular, in London in particular, there's, inequality has never been at its widest and most extreme. And that's the root of it, is inequality, is that more and more the gap between the very wealthy and the very poor is ever widening. And yet at the same time, we all live close to each other. We're all kind of connected, you know. And that's really a fascinating thought, that there's these vastly different worlds operating within very close quarters in a city like London. And I wanted to do something that showed those differences and how extreme they've become, but also what happens when those differences connect, you know, and how full of misunderstanding they are, how little they know about each other. That's the thing. So you have a character who is the most extremely sort of dysfunctional who has nothing in life and has no opportunities and no chances to be anything, apparently. And then you have someone that's very successful and wealthy and that has everything going for him. And it's about what happens when these two characters meet. And in the end, how they get to understand each other, you know, through a bizarre occurrence. I don't know if I should give too much away, but I kind of like the idea of withholding all the details of the story. You know, I think the you know, theatre, it seems to me, has a predominantly middle class kind of following. It feels like, and yet at the same time, I want to do something that could speak for everyone, really. I'd like the idea of the audience, the play representing different sections of the audience, so that it would attract that mix. The same mix that's in the play attracts that same mix of audience. I like the idea of audience being both shocked by what they see, but at the same time recognizing what they see is truthful to them, you know, and that's from both sections. I'd like the idea that the characters that are represented in the play that are from the margins of society, that actually that we could attract that kind of an audience, and they would empathise and understand what they saw on stage. I think that's when work becomes really exciting, when people see themselves and understand and what you're trying to do, and they don't feel alienated. You know, that's from both sections. But above all, I think it's an optimistic piece of work. It's to say that, you know, we have to find a way of understanding each other more and getting on more, and you know, that's the way forward.